You haven't got many minutes.
Yep. Agenda item 492, apologies for absence, please.
Councillors Jefferson, Jeremy. Good.
Thank you very much. Item 493, to confirm the minutes of the Corporate Services Committee meeting held on 19th of November, a long while ago. Can we agree the minutes of the last meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We don't need a vote on that, do we? Declarations of any.
Sorry, Chair, you've got a very bad committee officer. We do need a vote on that.
Oh, we do need a vote on it. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 494, declarations of any disposable pecuniary interest. I'm going to take that as none. We move on to item 495, approval of payments, to receive and approve the listings of payments made since the last committee meeting. Thank you, Annie, that's better. Can I leave that with you, Alan?
As per my standard speech, all payments that we've made between the period specified on the sheet, which is the 12th of November 2024 to the 13th of October, 13th of January 2025, have been included in these schedules. We do not do any editing. We do not do any redacting. All payments are included there. And it really is just a matter of, if councillors would like any further information, please let me know, and I'll send the electronic versions of the invoices that are attached to the accounting records.
Are we all happy to approve the payments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Proposer.
And a seconder, please. Proposed, Adam Mitchell, seconded, Matt Stirrup. All in favour? Against? Thank you very much. Harry. Item 496, communication and website report. I trust you've all read it. To receive and note a report from Communications Officer on the continual update of the council website. Any comments, please?
Usually I thank Hazel at this point, but she's not here, so thank you, Hazel. For the record, yeah, it justifies it there. So the website's not been working, so it explains everything. I've been chatting to some people. I do think we need to work on our comms a little bit, mainly because if you were to go on our Facebook page now, it's almost just an advertising portal. It's about what we've got on, the quizzes the mayor does, which are excellent, and sheep, which is fantastic. And as we discussed, sheep are very popular, and I think that's brilliant, and I'm really happy they are as popular as they are. I think that's fantastic. But I feel like there's not a lot of what we do on there or what we've done and achieved. One of the things that I use this as an example when I was talking to another councillor, one of the things we did not long ago was introduce rainwater collection, I believe, wasn't it? Which is going to save quite a fair bit of money. I don't think the public know about that unless they go and they read our minutes, which is a tricky task in itself. So what I'm proposing, however it needs to be, is post full council meetings, if whether it's Hazel directly or whomever reaches out to some of the people who were there, and we produce something like a post-council post-it note of just a couple bullet points of what we did in that meeting. So the council have introduced rainwater collection. This will save the taxpayer XYZ. Point. Next one, something else we did that meeting. The council have agreed to purchase, or the council have decided to XYZ, just to sort of start pushing out a bit more meat of what we do. Because if it wasn't for the Our Town magazine, I do think a lot of our residents wouldn't really know what we do. So I'm happy to be the person Hazel speaks with, or Director Terry, to sort of make how we're going to have that look. But I just think we just sell what we do a little bit better. Thank you.
Sorry.
I have spoken to Hazel. We have had a conversation 2 days ago on Monday regarding comms. We have got a schedule planned. So we've got a 12-week schedule of what we're going to produce. I think the posted notes are great idea. Rainwater wasn't agreed.
Okay,
It-
that example.
Yeah. But the things that we did agree, we definitely can do that. So I'll feed that back to Hazel
Thank
and we will improve on our comms. It is noted.
Thank you. I'm happy to work with her for that one.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, following up on that from what you just said, Matt, we also should put out every now and again that this only costs people £4 a month, £5 a month, 50 quid, whatever. It's whatever we are doing that looks good is incredibly low cost.
Thank you, Sonia.
As part of the budget, when it's been approved, what we are doing is we will go put out an A4 piece of paper, an infographic with what we do, how much it costs per pound, what is spent on what, and that will be part of the infographic.
That will be fine.
Okay?
Thank you, everybody. I think the comparison to make here would be with Brecton Council, who have a very active and can I say perhaps too involved comms team who work not so much as information as almost verging on propaganda. I feel there is a lack in the people in the mind of many residents between this town council and the stuff we do, and we do a load that doesn't get reported. So I think it would be great if we could be much more proactive about all the good work we do, and there is loads. Anybody else? Sonia,
We will be more proactive.
thank you.
It is noted. We have noted that there is a lack of communications going out, and we are working with Hazel on that. And you will see more communications over the next few weeks, and everything is noted. We are aware. We are totally aware. We hold our hands up.
Thank you. Adam,
I must correct some of the myths as well. I think the Wetherspoons, which suddenly went, probably are aware of now, but the whole town council position on the Wetherspoons outside seating. When I spoke to people in the town, they're completely unaware of what our town council position were. It was put right, you know, so I know things like that, maybe it's a bit difficult how much you can put out because of confidentiality, but it's sometimes, it's not just putting out a good work, but it corrects some of the myths that might be spread, some of anti-town council brigade, maybe potentially.
That Wetherspoons pay for that. We have discussed it openly at a meeting, so it should be public knowledge, shouldn't it?
I don't think we've got any money from.
Well, we're still finalising the set of legal terms, the legal teams. So we had a lot of negotiations. If you remember, we put forward a proposal.
But theoretically, they are paying.
They are.
They don't get it for free.
They're not getting it for free.
The point.
And in fact, they've gone one extra and actually done sponsorship of some of the car boxes around the mock show.
I don't know how far you go on this, but how worthwhile it is, but a sort of a rebuttal section would be a good thing, I think. Perhaps if somebody's coming out with some stuff very publicly, perhaps on some of the forums, then I think we should be in a position to rebut some of it. Hazel does do a bit of that, and I'm aware of that. I do thank her for it.
Sometimes members of the public will do it for us. They will put
Yes,
other members of the
Right.
public live, so then we don't get involved. Hazel will only get involved if she sees that we are getting accused of something that is not incorrect.
thank you. All happy? Then we move on to item 497, personnel report, covering personnel matters since the last meeting. Town clerk. It actually says town clerk here.
Yes, so just, you've read the report. Is there any questions that anybody wants to ask me about anything to do with personnel?
Yeah.
David,
The last report you've mentioned training that's not taking place. is there any scheduled in that we should be aware of? Or there's any costs involved that people
It's on,
need to know?
it's on this agenda as a later item.
Is it? Great.
Just to let you know, we are in the process of recruitment for our events and now heritage and events manager. The interviews are being taken place this Friday.
Yeah, I
So
think we,
hopefully
yeah.
by next week we'll have a conclusion to that and have a new person in post.
Thank you. No decision required. Move on to item 498. Financial report for the period ended 30th of November 2024. Over to you, Alan.
I think we're now in eight of 12 months of the financial year, and the trends that we've identified have been put out into the report. We have a little, certainly 2 months ago, we identified a big hole in the budget. We have been working really hard at filling that hole. We at one stage, it was forecasted we'd have a budget deficit of 60,000. That has come right down at the end of November to 28,000. So that's given us a little bit of breathing space. We are determined before the end of March that will be a surplus without, on a like-for-like basis. We're not doing any kind of holding back invoices. The one thing that I hold up my hand and very proud of is that if an invoice arrives today before 3 o'clock, it's in the accounting records today before 4 o'clock. We don't hold back anything. We have a really effective supplier payment system, and invoices get processed on receipt. We have no delays whatsoever, and our income is booked, I think, also at a very fair basis. Unfortunately, you can't book that the day you receive it because there's a little bit more information that happens and there's delays in receiving the money. But certainly our financial reports are as accurate as they can be, and I think that they, 99% reflect what the financial position is of the council. If there are any questions on the detail of the report, more than happy to answer them.
David.
Item 2, the Guildhall charity. What's the progress on that? What is the significant cost?
That is, I think what we did is we didn't have the capacity in the earlier part of this year to actually progress that. It's just one of those things we stared at on the to-do list, and we were just unable to do anything with it. We are starting a process now. We've got the clerk of the GW standing forth to do some advisory work. We've got 3 components. We're looking at a governance structure, we're looking at a financial viability structure, and we're looking at an overall functionality. And so there's 3 of us working on that. We are hoping the governance structure options are targeted to be completed by the end of the month. I had a chat to the GW standing forth clerk who's doing that bit of work yesterday, and she is very confident she'll have that work done. The financial viability side, we've got to go through a whole lot of work with the Charity Commission because we've got cash in the GW standing forth. So we're writing a paper. We've got to have that done by mid-February, and then we'll to assess that. And then the overall thing, we've got to put it together and we've got to make it feasible. The bottom line for us is that if we go the same model that we have for GW standing forth, we are ultimately responsible. So if we create an unviable entity, all that's going to happen is the town council are going to have to meet the liabilities of that. And we don't want to have that situation. So we've got to be quite careful as to how we structure it and make sure that we have the right information to make an informed decision on the right structure, on the right financing of it, and taking it forward from there.
But okay, on a month-by-month basis, where will we be by the end of January? Where will we be by the end of February? Where will we be by the end of March? When's the target date to complete the transaction?
We've set a target date to have the governance structure options done, because that will inform the financial modelling. We haven't put it, I know that, sorry.
So far, what we've done is we've done a plan of getting to the point where we know what recruitment was needed to run that new entity, the viability of that entity and the governance structure. So by the end of January, we will have that. I will then write a report and put all of that together, which will come to council. But before that, we need to get the work done by the GW Stanleyford Clark, because she understands charities, whereas I don't have that knowledge. So I'm waiting on her report. She has just had an operation, just come out of hospital. So it is forthcoming, but it won't be with us until end of January. And then time I write the report, you've got to remember, it's a lot of information gathering. And time we go to the charities commission, I'm hoping to get it to you by probably March full council.
Thank you. I might steal some words what I'm going to say for the next one, but a thank you to Alan and to Sonia as well. But a thank you.
I should have said that as well.
No.
I never think.
I know finance is not my forte, so thank you very much for being really competent with this sort of stuff, and just props for bringing it down to the point we're going to be in a surplus, which I think is excellent, and credit where credit's due. Just to confirm on record, we will be in a surplus, won't we?
I was hoping to have the latest forecast done to January, but because of the holidays, I will make sure. I've had enough sleepless nights over 60,000 deficit. I do like my sleep, and I do need to sleep. So I will I'm fairly certain that the deficit at the end of December will be even lower, January lower. We have actually put in some quite good cost controls. We've really made sure that there's and at the moment we're putting in a even more thorough authorization process, because once the expenditure's incurred and the service has been rendered, it doesn't matter what we do, we've got to approve the invoice, we've got to pay the invoice, because we've got a contract. So I'm fairly confident we'll have a surplus. Not a big one, but we'll have a surplus.
Doing an excellent job, thank you.
Sorry, I just exactly the same as I said to you. I'm sorry for the direct questions and how they might come across. They're not meant to be abrupt, but they are. Okay, I'm just used to it.
I'll just say, what I'll do with regards to this entity, at the March full council meeting, it will have to go on the agenda under part 2, or below the line, as you call it.
Sure.
Because obviously there are some HR implications with that, which I will work to the public arena.
But by April, we should be in a position to make a decision
Whether to or not.
or not. Okay. And sorry, is there a point where we go so far down the line and it's cost us not a significant, but quite a lot of money, and it would be silly to pull back? Or is that?
God, it's sort of already happened, doesn't it? It's already cost us quite a bit of money
I know, I've seen that.
against budget.
So, fine. I think what we've got to understand that if we had set up a charity this year, we'd have to provide working capital.
Yeah.
It's so why we did it. We took, in terms of my advice to the council, at the back of my mind when we set this up to start on the 1st of October, this 2024, was that we would probably have to put £150,000 into a hole to fund it. That obligation will still exist. We just need to make sure that it's not every year we're putting in 150,000, and that's what we've got to mitigate that risk, because in 1 year or 2 years' time, you want it to break even and you actually wanted to generate a little bit of surplus. And if we're the ultimate guarantor and we continue to pour money in, we've actually, it hasn't achieved its objective.
Yeah, we are trying to utilise my services, Alan's services. The only extra cost at this time is obviously the Stanleyford Clark.
Yeah.
We're paying her for her services. So at this time, it's not costing us a lot more money, but we need
Just
to
your
get,
time.
yeah, just mine and Alan's time. So we just need to get it to see whether council, whether we can make it viable. Because what we don't want, like Alan said, is 2 years down the line, it folds and we have to take it back.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Toby.
You're welcome. If I could comment, I would say that the decision to make the Carnegie an independent trust was in unlocking Thetford's potential document. It was voted upon.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to go ahead last year, so I think we moved without delay, haven't we?
We're trying to.
Yeah.
We're trying our best.
Yeah. And I appreciate the efforts being made there. Absolutely. Anybody else? Thank you. Item 499.
Approve the report. Sorry,
Sorry?
you have to approve the report.
Oh, sorry, yes. Can I have a proposer and a seconder to approve the report? Matt Stirrup and we just got him first. All in favour? Against? Thank you.
Best to keep my hands down.
That was a vote for, wasn't it, Dave?
If it was, yeah,
Thank you.
they're all a vote for.
499, item 499, budget for 25-26. I would like to say just a couple of words first. I think this is a superb effort on behalf of Alan and his team to keep the council tax increase down to 13p a week per week for a Band E house. Is a phenomenal effort, especially as much of that, some of that, will be paying for VE Day around the 5th. This is a council that are doing good work and competent work, and that competent work, I think, is reflected in the way at which we could do so much stuff so cheaply. So massive thanks to you, Alan. I'll let you get on with it.
I think when we first did a first draft of the budget, we really just dumped numbers down and it came out at a 16% increase. And we just knew that wasn't viable, but it was really just to give us an idea of what we were working with. There are some key areas. Obviously, the salary costs is a big driver in this council. We have a big staff complement. The suggestion is that there possibly could be a £3,000 increase for staff next year. If that's the case, I think every council in the country will have some serious problems. We just can't afford £3,000 per staff member. We have budgeted £1,500. The current year was 1294 or 49, something like that. So that gives you an idea. We have put that aside. We've budgeted for the higher national insurance contributions because that's a cost that we'll bear. And so from that perspective, we've been quite prudent. The other thing that we've done is we've really had a look at our open space management because we spend a lot of money in terms of managing that. We are hoping to buy vehicles, and that's a separate agenda point later on in the agenda. But what we've also done is we've really had a look at our big contracts. And we've said, at the moment, if we go out and we go to a big provider, we are only looking at 4 or 5 providers in this part of the world that can actually provide that service, a whole service to our cemeteries, to the castle park, etc. So what we've done is we've broken down the contracts, and we're breaking it into small piecemeal issues so that we can get a lot more smaller companies to actually propose, and we can make it viable for them because they won't be able to necessarily have all the equipment to do everything that we require, but they might have equipment to do small parts of it. So we spent a lot of time, and we've also looked at what we outsource, and we've brought in certain functions. So, for example, we believe that at the moment we pay for someone to litter pick at Castle Park. We can bring that in-house. We can cutting certain, the grass at Castle Park. We can possibly bring that in-house. There's a lot of things. Watering of the floral displays we can bring in-house. So we've looked at that. At the moment, we are really testing the market in terms of costs. We have budgeted a significant, an increase in those costs. If they don't materialise, well, that will be fantastic. We can look at other areas that we've had to cut back on. And then the last thing that we've done is we have included an amount on street wardens to continue them, funding them. We've obviously got the support that we give to the Citizen Advice Bureau. That will continue a full allocation to that. One of the issues that I think the council will be aware of, and since the new town clerk started, or the town clerk started, not the new one, is our HR practices were in disarray. So we've now got a retainer with Breckland Council to continue the service that they have provided. So those are some of the things that we put in the budget. We've also put in our new IT provider. Already, we're hoping that there should be huge efficiency savings from that, because using our IT is a lot more efficient. So we've really looked at the budget. It's come out at a 4.99% increase. That wasn't by design. That just happened when we really looked at all the numbers, and that's come out. And that's really what I hope I've been able to summarise what's in the budget and the major changes from the previous year.
Thank you, Alan.
It's going to sound like I'm trying to get something out of you, and I'm not with all these compliments I'm throwing at you. But again, credit where credit is absolutely due, Alan. It's a really good budget. I'm very proud to have this one. We have cut costs, but at no point I feel cut quality, which I think is excellent. To get it down to the lowest that you've managed to get it to, the 4.99, is fantastic. We promised we wouldn't raise it past inflation. I don't believe we've done that, which is incredible. We have a lot of, in the news lately, councils sharing their increases. I mean, one of them was 70 something.
Bungie 72, Cromer 50, Ellsworth.
We're 4.9, and we are a big town, which I think is incredible and a credit to you, Alan, and anyone involved in that. As I say, I'm really happy that at no point I feel we've skimped on quality in order to get to where we've gone. So well done.
Thank you. Any further comments? If not, I have one to make myself. You mentioned town wardens, Alan, and I think the difference those two guys have made within the town has been phenomenal. The only people I think who don't appreciate the value are the people who might possibly rub up against them. They do their job really efficiently. They make a difference. People like being here. So I was a little disappointed to find out that Breckland would only finance half, and the PCC, the person responsible for crime in the county, wouldn't finance them at all. I wonder if there's any anything we can do about that to express our disappointment, perhaps, that we're not getting the money from that direction, because they are quite expensive. Sonia.
Can I just say, I have written a response to the Police and Crime Commissioner, because I was quite disappointed as well with the response. Just to clarify, I'm in negotiations with Breckland. They haven't decided to pay half yet. We're still negotiating.
Thank you. David.
I don't think we should be criticising the PCC. They have got a reduced budget as well, and I think they're doing a fantastic job with the resources they've got.
This isn't criticism.
That's not the point. I think they're doing a fantastic job with the resources that they've got.
I think we're entitled to say we're disappointed.
Yes, and I'm entitled to say I think they're doing a fantastic job with the resources they've got. And I'd like that to be on record, please.
Good. So, yeah.
I don't think the response was, I think we're disappointed in the fact that we weren't in the budget.
That's putting it that way is one
It's
thing.
not personal.
It might not be from,
No.
yes.
No, not for me.
No, that's fine.
Carla.
I'm not a member of the committee, but I'm just trying to understand what's going on for clarification, because I know the ones around town are important to a lot of people. They've been doing a really good job indeed.
Yeah.
And people recognize that. So I was really trying to understand which portion comes from where. So I realized 50% will come from Breckland. Is that right? Like, trying to understand the costs, how they're divided in the moment, and how are you trying to work that out, basically?
So there is a negotiation going on between three parties: Town Council, Breckland, and PCC. The PCC has said they can't afford anything, so it's between Town Council and Breckland now.
Okay. Do we have an idea when this negotiation will be finished? And if it goes ahead, if we reach an understanding to cover the costs, for how long of a period will the costs cover for their services? Do we have any idea on that?
So I'm waiting on the portfolio holder to decide whether they're happy to go ahead with it or not. Once I hear back, the last response I had from them was they're waiting on the portfolio holder. So I prompted them again on Monday. So I'll do it again probably next Monday. But until they make a decision, we're happy. I think if Breckland are minded to pay half, I'm then got to ask council later on to pay half, because I think they do a brilliant service myself.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to understand. If we're going down that route, if Breckland does put off, if this council is inclined to then cover the rest, but obviously it's going to be we're waiting. So that's, thank you.
The reply we received from the PCC confirming they weren't going to, is that information I can be privy to, or is it?
It's from Breckland,
Okay.
so they replied directly to Breckland.
Okay. Can we get a reply to us, if possible?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to see the justification as to why.
That seems fair.
I think that's,
That was part of my email.
Thank
for
you.
me.
That seems reasonable.
I've got to go back to them.
Makes
ask
sense.
them why, and the fact that we were disappointed, which we would be, because
Yeah.
obviously it's a service that the residents enjoy and need. And part of that was just the why the decision was made not to.
thank you. Alan, I think you've got to say something on another point.
So
Very briefly, if they were that important to us, I don't think it would be that unreasonable to go to the community and say, instead of putting the taxes up by 4.99%, you're going to put it up by 5.3%, whatever it costs, in order to be able to afford a service we desperately want.
Sonia,
So even though that was a manifesto commitment or not, if it was that desperate to us, and we have the money and there's funding and we've got money in the pot, we could afford it ourselves.
We're too late to go back to our,
Yes, I understand that.
yeah.
I do understand. There are other ways of doing it.
I'm very flattered that people think that I'm the greatest thing in terms of budget, but this is a management team effort, and Sonia provides the guidance and the direction and helps steer us. So if I could just say, please don't, it's a management issue. That's not an individual. I just put numbers together. There's obviously the strategy behind it. So if I could also just make that point very clear. I like credit, but I think in this case it needs to be equally shared.
Excuse me.
thanks everyone. We need to recommend the budget and the precept to full council. Could I have a proposal? Oh, sorry, Adam.
Sorry, that's right. I was just double checking. Am I right in saying that salaries, which is obviously a massive proportion of expenditure, just reading it, has gone up in 2 years, best part of 40%? And is there any specific reason? Is that like because there's a massive change in the structure? It's not a 40% pay rise, I'm presuming, in 2 years. So that's is that nice?
Who wants to answer this one?
Well, I'll answer part of it. It's gone up for next year because government brought in higher NI, and I think that increased our staffing costs by 77,000 or something.
So that's in there. That's in it, right?
Yeah.
I also think that we had a situation where we were underpaying our staff. So part of the restructuring, people looked at our staff, and we actually had that whole exercise that we did a benchmarking. So this year we've had a correction of that, and that's also impacted on.
Yeah, I know there was you doing dual roles as well, weren't there? There was, yeah.
And then we filled positions.
And also there've been 2 large governmental increases in the last 2 years as part of the annual increase.
I'm just looking back, like, for me, I'm just going back, like, 2021, the bill was £500,000 or thereabouts, and it's now the best part of £1 million. I know some of that is including your costs of NI, etc. I get that. But if you sort of try and translate that to, am I right in saying that? I'm looking at the proposed budget is 907,000.
I'm sorry. Just put the figures up. Let me put the figures up on the screen there and then expand.
Looks the ladder.
I have to just move.
Might be misunderstanding it.
So salaries have gone, for example, in 2021, 507, 904. We've had, in the earlier years, we had quite significant increases. In 2023, 24, the increase was 1,900 per employee. And this year it's 1,200 pounds. So it was
3,000 something, wasn't it?
Yeah. We've also taken our staff complement fund at one stage to 17. We're now up to 23 staff members. So we've also had an increase. So for example, our toilets expenditure, which was quite significant because we bought that in-house, that's fallen. And we've increased the size of our works team because they were really falling behind, not able to get to their tasks. So there's also those kind of numbers have increased, number of staff by five. And we've,
isn't it? So the point I'm making is, and apologies ahead of Thursday's meeting because I'm in Sheffield, but for our national union, I'm actually being asked to take part in pay negotiations for frontline staff and all grades that are covered by our union, and we're struggling to get 3% out of all amount. We're struggling to turn around and say we want just above inflation. So 1,500 quid would be 3% of 50 grand salary, for example.
Yeah.
So it's, compared to what's going on outside, I think that's quite generous. If I'm being honest, and I'm just sitting there going, so I'm looking at and again, I'm not being critical, by the way, because the people that are in here that are paid have excellent work, and I'm not knocking it at all. Caveat sort of thing. I'm just saying that jump for me, particularly from 2022, is huge, isn't it? And I know some of that's down to structure, and that's what when I was looking at it, I was going, it's massive.
So with government, I mean, we don't predict what our governmental increase is going to be. That's central government and our SLCC, and NALC who make that increase every year.
Recommendation or
No.
it's not a recommendation. It's actually, if I can step on last, what happens, it depends on your mix of stuff, because we don't get percentage increases, we get quantum increase. So if you're say ECP 2 or 3 and you are earning say 80,000, I can't remember the exact numbers, and you've got a £1,924 increase, that is a significant increase. At the higher end, it's not that significant. So because our staff, if you look at the median of our staff, we're actually round about the level 6. So an increase of £1,000 is not 2 or 3%. It actually works out at 6 or 7. On a big balanced local government, it might work out at 3 or 4%. But because we actually have a skew, we are very our scales are like that. You have a very few at the top, you have a lot at the bottom, because we don't have a middle management. A small governmental increase of what sounds relatively small is actually quite significant for the staff members involved. So last year at 1924, I worked it out, it was nearly 8%, which was pretty good considering that public sector pay was lagging at 2 or 3%.
Yeah, exactly that. And again, really naively, I'm sitting there comparing to what's going on in the outside world. I'm thinking, and obviously we don't do this, but I'm thinking if you had a full council meeting and said, actually, our wage bill has gone up from that to that over the course of 3 years, with the members in the town, which is the people that elected us. So I'm just sitting there. Yeah. So yeah, it's explaining some of it, but yeah, just questioning. Like I've just looked at some of the bits that have gone up and down in the budget and the forecasted budget.
I think essentially what it is, and you're right, it wouldn't be easy to explain, but it's not like kind of workers getting a pay increase. It's like the whole company getting a pay increase, and so it comes out it looks disproportionate.
Am I correct in thinking so that should also slightly go down because we're not filling behind some of our positions, are we? Are we filling everyone who? I thought we weren't filling behind every single one.
This is costed based on what we have. So, for example, in our heritage and events team, we've moved to a sessional worker model. That's included in here. So we haven't filled those positions, but in the town team, we will fill a position. I mean, what we might have to fill another position is, for example, at the moment we have someone, our amenities, who works Monday to Friday. But if they go and leave, we have to either take a town team member and use them, or we have to bring in a kind of a contracted in person, extremely expensive. So we've been looking at models here. How do we actually prevent that? Because if our amenities person goes away, that's £1,000 of, for 1 week's leave costs us an extra £1,000, and that's a salary cost. Whereas if we did it in-house and we used our existing resources, we would probably only spend £250 to £300. So we keep looking at those options, but we will always fill those technical positions. The sessional model is the only way to run our heritage and events to a large extent, and we are supporting that model.
Do we not have a civic role we didn't fill behind? Am I making this up?
Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely.
We have a
We reduce hours on that.
reduced hours.
Thank you. I think we did something. Thank you.
Thank you. Is everybody happy? Could I, we need to recommend the budget of the precepts of full council. Could I have a proposer, please? And a seconder. Adam, those in favour, please. Against? Abstain. Thank you. Item 500, complaints procedure. To agree on the new complaints procedure, over to you, Sonia.
Any questions?
I think it's that simple, isn't it?
We didn't have a robust enough complaints procedure. It didn't specify timescales. And I think the community, when they put in a complaint, they want to know that they've got to get an answer and how long it's got to take to get that answer. So that's what I'll provide as then moving with.
Sorry, yeah, it's simple. Thank you.
Just the one. The timeframes that were set out, so timescale so investigation completed within 14 working days, and then however many days for every sort of stage. Is that a generic one you were given, or is that what you've chose? Because I don't want you guys to be put up against, a clock that doesn't work for us.
Yeah, I looked at lots of policies across lots of town councils and I took the median.
Okay.
So I looked at lots and some said 7 days, some said 21. So I just went down the middle.
And you're good with, you feel it's
I feel
doable.
like it's doable, yeah.
Just, I don't want you guys to feel backed in the corner to get timeframes out.
Thank you. We need a proposer for this, don't we?
Not a lot, but okay.
Thank you, councillor Stirrup. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Anna. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 501, internal and external audit policy. To review, discuss and agree the new internal external audit policy. Sonia.
Yeah, so you didn't have an internal and external audit policy. This just sets out what we expect from them, what we want for our money, and make sure that our governance is as good as it could possibly be.
Got external auditors in mind. I know we've used
We
people.
don't get to choose our external auditor, that's PKF Little John, but an internal auditor is on. We're looking
Yeah,
for a new
just
one.
the external, right.
Thank you very much. We need to agree the internal and external audit policy. Could I have a proposer who's not councillor Stirrup, please? Thank you, Annie. Seconder? Thank you, David.
I'll contribute. I'm a bystander today, so.
All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 502, again in a similar vein, sexual harassment policy.
Government brought in the workplace harassment protection bill last year. On top of that, I then did a risk assessment and we came out amber. So I thought I better write a policy to make sure we don't go into the red.
Is that because we didn't have one, or is that
You didn't have one now.
not because of incidents?
No, just because I think we have a lot of outdoor staff. We have a lot of people interacting with schools, children, adults. And so I thought that was the best thing to do for the council.
Thank you. Any more comments? Otherwise, I'll put it to a vote. We need to agree that policy. Could I have a proposer, please? Adam, thank you. And Annie, I'll take that as a second.
Yeah.
All those in favour? Against? Carry.
Just like a comment. So
Yes, of course.
the higher wage bill.
Yeah.
What I am noticing is everything's becoming a lot more professional, and that being an example of it. So something for
Becomes a parent.
I'm sure your comment is very welcome.
Yes.
We'll see what we spend the money on.
Item 503, vehicles report. Regarding the purchase of new vehicles for council staff. Again, over to you, Sonia.
I think Alan's got a lead on this one.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
It does say.
I think, without talking to the paper, we ended up in a situation at the beginning of last year where we were just working with 2 vehicles. So what used to happen is we had a town team would be out, then someone needed to come into the office or someone needed to go to a supplier to pick up some goods. Everyone would pack in their things, get into the vehicle, they'd all drive there, pick it up, go out, and then take everything out again. And it was the most ridiculous situation. We had so much inefficiencies. So what we did is we actually decided to hire more vehicles. We initially got a 3rd vehicle, and then we ended up with a 4th vehicle. If you have a look at our operations, and I'm going to try and put it as easy as I can. We have an allotment officer that has 5 sites. That allotment officer goes and does emergency maintenance, does planned maintenance, has tools in that vehicle, when he's back at work, is offering, has views of, makes arrangements for people to take vacant allotment sites, and he has to deal with any complaints that come along. So that is essentially ties up 1 vehicle. We have a supervisor and a town team manager the town team manager is very office-based, but the supervisor is not office-based. The supervisor, in terms of their role, has to go out and check the teams. So we've got 4 people working underneath the supervisor. So we need a vehicle for that capacity because people have to go around, and the supervisor doesn't just go and look and see what everyone else is doing. They also have responsibilities. That leaves 4 staff members. And if we only had 3 vehicles, we would have 1 vehicle for 4 staff members. That means that the staff members have to get together. So if everyone has to go do something, work at the cemetery, everyone has to get in and go to the cemetery while they do something, pick up, and then go out. Or you have to have someone just driving around, picking up people, dropping off materials. So you've got a person. So the reason for getting 4 vehicles is that we actually need it based on just operational factors. To take something else into account, we are taking back our watering of our floral displays. So we need a vehicle for that. And in the summer months, that's going to be used quite extensively because we have to water our plants. We are going to do a lot more tasks in Castle Park. So we need a vehicle there. So the whole option is why we've gone for 4 vehicles is because we honestly believe from an operational perspective and a productivity perspective that we need it. Sonia will give you more information in terms of the costings. Believe it or not, I'm just an accountant, so I don't do those things. But it really is just it's fundamental. At the moment, we are paying out £38,000 on vehicle rental charges. We're hoping to smash that amount, purchase 4 vehicles at a relatively amount of money, maintain those vehicles, and just keep them turning over. So that's my part of the rationale for looking at vehicles. If I could ask Sonia, I don't know if you want to do the costing or.
yes, so we looked at different suppliers to see if we could get cheaper costings for the 4 vehicles on a lease, and the cheapest we could get was 34,500. And that was by reducing one of the transit vans to a small van as well. So what we did is we then went out and looked at buying vehicles that were still manufacturer's warranty, but were 3 years old. And it works out that they're going to cost us about between 55 and 60,000 pounds. And this way is with a 12 months warranty, MOTs, and this is from a good company. It's not from Bob down the road.
So, yeah, no, I'll leave that for now. I'll chuck it out now.
It's a no-brainer. I think you do it in your own house. You wouldn't pay for a lease vehicle. You've also got the sell-on value later on as well, potentially for other vehicles. So I just think it's a no-brainer for.
I assume I'm not putting, no, carry on if you want.
Just do the cost-wise.
Yeah. I assume the principle would be, and this is an assumption, that over the following period, so we get the big cost up front, then over the following years, we stagger it so as we get a cost of 1 vehicle.
Yeah, so what I'll do is get Alan to put a EMR into the budget every year. So as
Yeah.
it goes into the budget, so that when we decide that one of the vehicles needs changing, we won't have to worry because we'll already have that pot of money there, just like your savings account at home.
Yeah,
We'll be doing that for vehicles.
thank you.
Yeah, I was going to argue it slightly, but Alan, you took the wind out my sails at the start. You sort of answered what I was going to ask, but I'm still going to ask it just in case. Are you, in your professional opinion, and yours as well, Tommy, do you genuinely think we need 4? And the reason why is it's £60,000 of public money. We have 6 staff. Surely we should be encouraging better workflow and use of time and sharing of 3 vehicles rather than buying a 4th. And if worst case scenario, we buy a 4th next year, if it doesn't work, we don't get a discount for getting 4.
Not a person use their own vehicle.
So,
Can I just give you an example of something that happened on Friday? We had all the works team out, and then all of a sudden we had a sheep that fell over on its side on Barnum Cross Common, which is quite common because we get lots of phone calls for that. So what happened is there was a vehicle here because David Penton was in the office. Nick got in the vehicle, drove there, sorted out the sheep, and came back. That's the example. Now, if we didn't have that, he would have to call someone in off the other maintenance, or he'd have to use his own car. Then we have to pay his insurance. We have to do a whole lot of things into an agreement with him. And I don't want our staff using their own personal vehicles because that becomes quite difficult from an insurance. They incur costs. We then have to compensate them. So I do honestly believe that there are instances. Sure, if we will see the vehicles are parked in this building, from Monday to Sunday. If there are vehicles standing there, we would actually say, well, why is that there? But they are being used. And one of the things we've done is we've tasked our town team manager to even delegate more. So our town supervisor will be more and more responsible for managing the teams, kind of mobilizing the teams. We still have the crazy situation where because we've got 4 vehicles, 2 people go, if something happens to happen at the cemetery, we typically 2 people go open the gate. We don't need 2 work team members to open the gate. If there were fewer vehicles, and sorry, 2 of them go to open the gate with 4 vehicles at the moment. If we had fewer vehicles, there would be 3 or 4 of them going to open the gate, and that's a complete waste of resources. So I honestly believe that that it is necessary, and we can show the improvements in productivity going forward.
David, I use my vehicle for work, and Annie used it as well. We were paid, I don't know, 50 pence a mile or whatever. My car insurance on Annie's car doesn't cost much more. My previous company, going back a number of years ago, used to give us £100 a month extra for using our vehicle. Not that I did many miles, but we got £100 a month, which would pay the extra insurance and whatever else. Why can't 1 or 2 people that might be essential users, occasional essential users, use their own vehicle if they're willing to do, and we pay the insurance extra bit, and 50 pence a mile, or whatever the figure is for the government thing? That would stop that.
Yeah.
That would stop that.
I think, let me give you an example. Sonia and myself go and represent the town council. We go to Brecton Council, and sure, we get that. I have to insure my car for that. I don't get any compensation from the council, but I get a per mile rate. But our town team are not using that. The type of thing that they do is not for a car. They don't have big vans. They might have a small little car. That's impractical, but you couldn't even put a
But they're not going to
trimmer on
up and take it.
No, that was just an example of where someone was. Luckily, David P was in the office, and he otherwise we would have to call someone else in from the job to do it. But we've got 4 vehicles, and we're still having to do that. So 3 vehicles would just make it
Okay, if you get into it, then that's fine.
Sonia.
Yeah, I agree. I thought 4 vehicles was over the top, but as I've looked at the way they work and how we can make improvement, plus if we hadn't bought all of these other things in-house, I think we maybe could have scraped by with 3 vehicles at a push with someone using a vehicle of their own, if they were willing to do so, because we can't make them. But once we brought in the litter picking and we brought in the watering, we now need a vehicle just to water. And that is where you either keep paying out for other people to do this piece of work, or we buy this vehicle. And if we're paying someone £100 a month, that's £1,200 a year, plus 45 pence a mile, plus costs on other costs. That sort of equates itself out.
So I guess to summarise what you're saying is that fourth vehicle brings its own economies.
Yes.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay, any more points? Floor. Can I, we need to agree on the recommendations in the report and send them to full council. Could I have a proposal, please? Adam, seconder? David, those in favour? Against? Thank you. Item 50, sorry?
Sonia had a
Is
hand up.
that the proposal as in the report? Is that the one?
Yes, it says vehicles report to agree on recommendations in the report.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Item 504, progress report. To receive and review the progress on committee actions. This one's on you, I think, Alan.
It is. I think what we've done is the town clerk has introduced a new reporting system. I don't think we as officers have been very successful in implementing it properly. So in the last few meetings, I have spent a lot of time actually going through all of these individually and updating them and making sure that what's reflected here is accurate. We have the next phase is what the whole objective of this is. It has to be driven internally by management. So, for example, we're now getting to the stage where as soon as we have a meeting like tonight's meeting, there'll be recommendations and actions coming out of that that'll go straight into that sheet, and then that sheet will be available for us to manage. So, at the moment, it's a reflection of what our progress is. Certainly, what we've completed as a committee, which is the second page of the report we have, there's a lot here that we actually have achieved. But I think the town clerk will probably kick me under the table, but we are getting to the stage where this is becoming a really working and useful document, and that we need to manage it. But it's not quite there yet, and it's not because it's really just because of our lack of appreciation of actually using the schedule for its intended purpose. So I think it's a fair reflection, but the actions need to obviously fall off and actually be done, and we need to report more accurate than that. And that's probably where there's a little bit of a failure. And I hold up my hand wholly to take responsibility for that.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you for your hard work involved in this. As ever, it's a very clear and very good report. Do we have any comments? Thank you. In that case, there's no decision required, so we'll move on to item 505, exclusion of press and public, to consider resolving that pursuant to the Public Bodies Admission for Meetings Act 1960, the press and public be excluded for any remaining items of business on the grounds that publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be discussed. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Against? Discontinue.